when I've been watching your content, I've been watching your content pretty much since you've been putting it out, because that's just kind of what I do. It's just watch stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Because I'm a big, like, even before making content and stuff, like, I'm a big YouTube person. Like, in terms of like I like a good bit of sci-fi, as you maybe know, and a few other bits and pieces, and I'm always just on YouTube watching stuff. So anyway, like, your content really grabbed my attention when you first brought it out, because it's like very well scripted, very well delivered and everything, but it's really captured my attention, my imagination much more over the last couple of episodes when you've done this whole, and I'm sure you'll be going into it in much more detail over the next weeks and months in your own content, but this transition you've made from limited to rare has been like stellar. Execution's been almost pinpoint.
Well, thanks for saying so. I have my doubts. Like, I'm always doubting myself when I think about these things. And even before we get started, I just wanted to say that before I started making my content, I consumed all of your content. And pretty much everyone who's put out Sorare content on YouTube, I consumed it all. And thanks to you, I really got into it. Like the podcasts, you and everyone else who makes content in the community. So you're a big help.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
My transition, for people who don't know, I started out going hard into limited, and I only owned limited cards for like the whole first month or so. I was winning rewards, like 50% win rate. I had a great gallery. And then something happened one day where I was like, you know what? I need to move up to rares. And I've basically now sold all my limited cards. The last episode I did on YouTube, I had like 6 limited cards. They're gone now.
Wow.
They're gone. Yeah. But why did you find that so interesting that my move from limited to rares?
So one thing I'm forever trying to put myself in the shoes of is like people coming on the now, to just try and understand, things that are fun still, things that aren't as fun that I might enjoy, or difficulties, teething problems, these kind of things when people are new. And I think, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure we were chatting when you first opened your account, and it's the advice I give everyone, but I'm pretty sure we had this chat where it's like, the best thing you can do is get players that you like and you follow, and you can enjoy like following the game, because like, me as much as anyone else loves all the ROI stuff that kicks about, flipping cards and buying low, selling high, and all that kind of caper. But so much of the fun element gets overlooked or undervalued. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's the chat we had. And
no, we definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah, you seem to like really take that, and like you say, 50% win ratio. You were picking up guys that you loved, that you knew about already, you could really engage with. So seeing, because not many people like, and again, I'm going to say this, doing my best not to sound like an asshole, but the amount of people that ask you for advice and then they just kind of do what they want anyway, or they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. There's very few people that, when I say something like that, like, listen, just get what you know, have fun, and don't worry about ROI for the first little while. You'll make mistakes and then learn as you go. You've done that, like, the execution's been like perfect. You did that. You went in 50% win ratio. You managed to sell them all for pretty tidy profits, and then the rares you're picking up, they're, and that's part of the thing that I think the execution on what you've done has been so stellar. We'll get back to the video in just a quick second. I've been making content helping people get started with Sorare for the last 2 years, and thankfully the content has helped thousands of people. Down to the support I've had back for you guys, the channel's managed to grow and expand, and we've taken on a studio, and I'm hoping throughout the rest of the year 2022 I can bring you guys the best football, the best Sorare content possible. For the last 2 years, Sorare have been massive fans of the content, and the support they've given us is down to the link in the description of this video. If you haven't opened your account yet, Sorare give all of my viewers a free card for signing up using that link in the description. All you need to do is click the link, sign up directly. Once you've bought 5 from the market, you get a free card from Sorare. You can sell it, you can keep it, you can do whatever you want with it. Huge fans of the channel. Fanatics.com, one of the biggest retailers in the world of sports goods, whether it be NFL, NBA, football, shirts, tracksuits, hoodies, all officially licensed, and they want to support the content, they want to support the channel by giving you guys, the audience, special exclusive discounts to all of these items and many more. If you are going to buy any sportswear this year, then using that link in the description goes directly to supporting the content here at Quinny 3001 and Sorare TV. And I can't thank you enough for your continued support, guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Is the rares you're picking up are not compromise cards. You're still getting rares that are of a similar caliber to what your limiteds were-ish, and it's not like, oh, I'm moving up to rare now, so I can't get a starting forwards. I'll get this rotational third choice guy in Belgium. You're still going out and picking up guys that are worth a hit, you know, that are worth getting. So that's why it's been so impressive for me to watch.
Well, I was lucky enough to start off with a bounce that I was able to pick up those kind of players that were really hot and in demand, especially like around the time that I've only been here since November. Like I'm relatively late, and I feel like a newbie. I'm still learning all the time, but I was picking up players like Florian Wirtz and Bastoni for 0.04, and he's limited, and Botman when he was injured for 0.04, and then they all tripled, and Wirtz hit more form, and yeah, I made a ton on them. So I pretty much doubled my ETH from 3 to 6 in a month and a half. And then at that point, you're like, well, I've got these cards that are all selling for 0.3, 0.4. I had a Vinicius that I picked up for a 0.1 something, and he was up to 0.5. And I was like, you know what? I should be moving to rares because these limited cards are going for rare prices at this point. Like, it was getting silly. So I was like, why wouldn't I go and try and compete in where there's far less competition? It seems like everyone's making the move now from limited to rares. Like, I've seen so many people like, I'm selling all my limiteds, I'm moving to rares. Like, so many content creators too. I don't know if we're all influencing each other, but it's getting to that point where people who started out with a relatively good budget around the same time as me are like, all right, now time to move up because we can. But it's interesting to think that, like, in your opinion, that I've moved to a point where I'm picking up cards that are still competitive, because I'm starting to feel like I don't know if I'm going to be able to compete even now with the cards that I'm picking up. So I did move to a point where I was like, all right, I'm just going to build one team and this is going to be my all-star. But then I realized that, I'm still going to have those rotation risks. I'm still going to have injuries. I'm still going to have DMPs no matter what. So why wouldn't I try and focus? And even since then, I've kind of sold some more cards and transitioned to solely U23, because I feel like if I have a good solid base of 15, 16, 17 really good U23s, if I fall into those traps of, because this is what I did in Limited, right? Limited, I started off basically solely focusing on U23s and diversifying, so that when I was running into those kind of dramas where someone was out or someone was injured, for example, like Botman and Bastoni were injured, or someone suspended, like Vinicius is suspended, I could just switch out and really focus on one division, and then play my scraps in another division. I was ending up winning cards in U23, but also in the leagues that I wasn't focusing on. So I've kind of done that I moved up to rares and done the exact same thing. I realized, you know what? This is what worked in limiteds. Try it in rares and see what happens. Go from there.
Yeah. Well, as I say, but with the cards, I had to bring it up just to remember, because we've been chatting while we've been kind of going and picking these guys up. But like Julian Araujo, Almendra, Tani, Vinicius Souza, Matias Cunha, Munayin Hoffman. Who else grabbed my attention? I like Sekigawa. Eric Martel, I seen you doing a post about him. I think it was this morning or last night. And then just recently you've picked up Devikas. These guys are like on most people's shopping lists. If you're to say, like, go and get X caliber of card, you know, that's what I mean. Like, these aren't like these guys that you're picking up for your front line, your main team. They're not compromised pieces. You know, they're very much like, if I was going to bet the best U23 defender in America, in my personal opinion, is Araujo. You've got him. Almendra is not far off the same thing in South America. You know, Vinicius Souza, need I say more?
I'm hoping he keeps it up. I'm hoping he keeps this run of form, because I'm hoping it's just not a big burst. But I did have a look at some of the underlying data, and I was like, yeah, it's not going away.
It's repeatable stuff he's doing. He's not scoring worldies every week. You know, he's just connecting passes, winning interceptions.
I think he's got 1 goal, 1 assist. So he's all AA. He's not decisive at all. So and it's the same with Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni's got some great. He's had some decisives, but he is all AA. And everyone's like falling in love with him, and he's rocketed up in price. I had his limited and I had to sell it on, obviously, but I was loving it.
Yeah. So that was my kind of, because when we were chatting and you were like picking some of these guys up, and then when I see your posts, because your posts, everyone watches your posts because they're really good. All your signings, you know, the little kind of, you know, the little GIF kind of thing that you put together. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't enjoy seeing them pop up on the timeline.
Oh, the rewards video, yeah.
The rewards video, and no, but you've done it. I think actually for the new signing, it's not a motion one. It's just a picture. But yeah, I don't think anyone is unhappy to see that on the timeline. But again, whenever I see them, like Eric Martel, I'm a big fan of. As like I've said already, they're not compromised pieces. And the thing that I've really enjoyed about watching that is when limiteds were introduced roughly about the time you joined the platform, the point of them was to be the gateway to come in, learn the game, should be cheaper. Fair enough, you need a balance to still buy the things. They're still not like pennies, they still cost a few quid,
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize it was as little as 3 months, so that transition from like really cutting your teeth with the limiteds, and you bought well, you've sold well, and then when you make that move up again, like I say, the most impressive thing is most of these cards that you've got are very much like active pieces. They're not compromised ones where it's like, oh, I hope this guy's okay.
I'm still hoping though. I still don't have like I feel like everyone's in the same boat. Where, like I have doubts, or I don't like have the courage of my conviction sometimes. But we'll see what happens over the next few weeks. But I feel like I did when I first started, where I was going in completely blind or feeling like I had no grip on the division. Whereas in limited, I felt like I knew where I was.
Yeah.
But that's kind of exciting. Like I've probably made some mistakes and I'll probably lose some value in my cards, but I've earned the right to because I have increased it so much. So if it does go down, whatever, I don't care.
I'm with you. And that kind of sentiment you've got is kind of where I'm at with a lot of cards, because I've had them for so long, and the situation I'm in is obviously totally different. That's kind of what I was saying to you before, or at the beginning of this, is like I'm forever trying to keep myself in as much as I can the new person's shoes. And because a lot of my cards and a lot of things that happen in the market, I can kind of just shrug it off and just think, well, even if it did go, if Depay breaks his leg or Sané never plays again or whatever, like I've done all right out that card while I've had it. Like, yeah, it'll be a kick in the stones to not sell it for £1 million or in the future. But, you've got to be a realist with it, and like you say, you've kind of earned the right to take a loss if, you maybe did pay a little bit too much for one or two of these cards as time went on, perhaps, if you do get that churn out. So
that's what I like about your gallery too. You have the connection to the players, and if something's really important, then I would encourage anyone who starts out to really pick up players that they like. It is important to focus on cards that do score well, like that they're going to be good in SO5 or they will have a good game week at some point. But you have to like them. You have to have some sort of connection, and that's why I really enjoy your content, because it's like you've got your favorites and you've got players that you like and players that you don't like, and there's some players that you don't like who are good, and there's some players that you do like who are also good. So it's really up to you. And that's what's fun about Sorare that I've found.
Totally. I'm with you all the way on that, because like it is football. And again, like I kind of mentioned earlier, so much of the game is ROI focused and market focused. What's ETH doing? Is limited's up or rare's up? What's going on? Da. And it's funny. I was actually thinking about this last night just before going to bed. It's like, I think I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember whose one it was. If the game isn't fun, or if I wasn't engaged in it, like there's plenty of that. Oh, what was that I was listening to? There's tons of things out there, crypto wise, football wise, speculation wise. So many things you can do with your money to have an investment opportunity to do ROI and whatever. And for me, none of them are fun, and that's why I don't do any of them. Like I've got a big banker pal, you've maybe heard me refer to over the piece, and he's forever saying to me, "Oh, Quinny, you should be putting some of your money into this, and you'll get 4% a year and stuff like that." But I'm like, "Yeah, mate, but that's not any fun." Like, fair enough, I'm sure it's a great thing and all the rest of it. None of this is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but it's not fun, so I'm probably never going to do it. I would much rather, like with that money, what I used to do in the past before the content kind of got a bit bigger, is I'd go and buy like memorabilia of stuff for, because that's fun. If I'm like thinking I'll go and hide some of my money into something I can sell later on, then stocks and shares and bonds and all that's interesting, and there's benefits to it and all the rest of it. But I'd much rather have a limited edition signed boxed mint in box fucking something, that's just more fun to me.
I think it's also the joy of the game, right? Some people really like trading and some people want to try and make as much money as possible, and that's great. Totally. But I actually use my gallery value and my fiat, like my value in fiat terms, as a measure for my series that I'm doing. But that's not my focus. Like I've explained it so many times in my videos. It's like, that's not really what my focus is. My focus is on having fun. I'm just using this as a progression bar sort of thing. Like how are we measuring like how we're progressing? Yeah. Because I'm sure lots of people would do that, but I found that people are coming over from FIFA and they're wanting to be traders and whatnot, and they're trying to like grind out as much money as possible. I'm like, cool, but are you really having fun? I guess they are having fun, but it's not really what the game is designed for. But then again, the game, you can play it how you want it, and that's why I love it so much. And I'm absolutely obsessed. Like, I can't stop thinking about Sorare. I feel like a lot of people are the same.
Mate, I was the exact same. I've got a big. I won't mention it now because I don't know where the deal's going to go. But I've got a big negotiation on Discord with a guy, and he's clearly went to bed. And I'm like, mate, just going to wake up. Like,
I'm not,
just going to wake up.
I was going to talk to you about that because trading, when I'm selling stuff, especially now that I've moved up to res, is an absolute ball ache because there's no way to actually communicate properly with people on the platform. Like if they don't have Discord, you're just sending off offers into the blue, like into the dark, just hoping some guy's going to check his emails or like actually go on the platform. Someone who lists a card for sale, like I'm trying to pick up a U23 goalkeeper at the moment. Like half of them don't have Discord, and I'm just sending off offers into the dark, being like, I hope you guys accept this, and I'll try you, I guess, because you're not responding. It's the sooner they implement some sort of system where you can like communicate in the actual Sorare platform, the better. And I'm sure they're working on it, but it needs to come. It needs to come sooner.
It'll be Game Buster, won't it? For sure. Like, see what I used to do maybe about a year ago for about 2 or 3 months is I used to try and find like old accounts, right? Like guys that had an account for ages, maybe they never came back. And then what I would do is I would like spam them offers, like 10, 12 of them in a day, like offer, cancel. Because like if they've got like, and again, I don't know if this is exactly the sort of people that you're trying to negotiate with, but there is some of them out there and I recommend you just give this a try. It is yet to pay off for me, but some of these accounts are people that, well, I had an account ages ago, got a couple of cards, and then hopefully they've not lost their passwords, but for whatever reason, they've not been back in and logged in. So I assume, first and foremost, that the emails are going to get spam filtered or something, or they maybe not catch it, maybe get buried in other emails, because you know what it's like in your email inbox. It's very easy to overlook one email. Yeah. So I used to find accounts and they would have like a bunch of Jupiler League players that they were picking up for like £2 and £3 each, super rares and stuff. And I would just like spam them like 12 offers in a day. Hopefully they'll see an email and then maybe list it, or I'll maybe leave the 12th offer in. It'll be a decent offer, something they would hopefully accept. And then hopefully they would come back. It, like I said at the tip off, it never paid off for me. But with those people, I was always like, oh my God, I bet you this guy would definitely sell it for more than he paid for it and way under what Sorare data says, because there's no way this guy's on Sorare data. He's not even on Sorare anymore, you know.
Well, the guys I'm talking about, like, people have actually listed the cards, so they've been on the platform in the last 2 days or whatever. So they just, I feel like they just list cards and then just disappear. I'm like, where have you gone? Please respond to this. Tell me like what you want from me. Like, I'm just trying to pick up a card, so please help me.
That's it, man. Aye, I've had a few of them. I actually, through the same kind of thing, I think I reawakened an account. So I found a guy, as you know, I've got a super rare Tonali right now. I was kind of hunting down that Tonali, not that specific card, but a super rare one for about 6 months. And my main target, I think the guy might even still have the card. I can't remember his name now. But he bought it on a bundle and he picked up a Japanese unique and he had like 10 cards total. And it was a real random, who knows why he bought all these cards. And
he clearly wasn't playing SO5 then.
No, he wasn't playing SO5. I think it's maybe sold on now. I'll try and find the account. Yeah, so if any of you want to check this out, I'll put it on screen. But the guy's called Hottest Spot in Town, all one word. You can find him on. He's got one follower. It might be me. No, it's not. And I think he's still got a unique that he bought 10 months ago and a super rare and a couple of rares, and that's all he's got is 4 cards now. But anyway, so I was after the Tonali, and I could see this guy come in 1 day, 2 days, and like bought a bunch of cards, and then like went away, never came back. And
Gary V
doesn't have Discord, yeah. But I started sending him offers for the Tonali, and I think it reawakened him, and he started listing it all the time. But he was listing it for like what he paid for the bundle. And I was trying to get it, obviously, like what I would see as a fair price. Obviously, he would be taking a loss, which is unfortunate for him, just with the way ETH was going and, you know, buying in a bundle, you know, you try to sell it anyway.
Yeah.
And I've forever had the same frustrations as you, because the guy was clearly like rejecting my offers, and then he was like delist and relist and do all that stuff. And I was like, mate, I wish I could just talk to you for a minute and just say, listen, you're not going to get anyone to pay 4 ETH for that card, but I'll give you an ETH and a half to now. Like, that's a good price, you know? And it just didn't go anywhere. I eventually got one for much cheaper, in fact, you know, but I was just trying to target this one guy for about 4 months. I wasn't telling anyone I was going after Tonali, and I wasn't telling anyone about this account, obviously. But so I feel the pain, yeah. And as soon as we get some sort of like old school MSN style messenger like built into Sorare, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? Blast from the past.
Or even
All
something like I've heard this mentioned a few times, but something to translate through the language barrier of like 3 or 4 options, like I will accept this much more or this much less, or just a way to quickly communicate. Like, you give me some quick options, like an A, B, and a C.
Nowhere near.
Yeah, I get that
miles off, buddy.
Yeah, that's probably my least favorite part of the entire game. Like, talking to people and trying to get a deal done. It's like, what are we doing?
Matt, in terms of Discord, like, I did a video. I might be in a members section video, so sorry if anyone that's not seen it, but it's called Negotiating 101. And see, with Discord, like, my best advice for people on Discord, this isn't, it's just kind of come into my head, SoJiwa, when you were saying that there, is like, I treat everyone on Discord like they don't speak English, if you know what I mean, when I'm, messaging them and whatever. So I always make sure, like, when I'm chatting to them, all my language is very, like, just very simple and direct. I hate when you go into Discord conversations with people and they want to give you a big story about why their card's so amazing, or, it's everyone's kind of pet peeve. So I always like stay well clear of that and just try and keep it to, like, just punchlines. Kind of what you're saying there. If they had like some sort of, preset messages that they could auto translate and you can just ping them cross platform, they would be a godsend.
I'm sure it's something they can do. I'm sure they'll do it at some point, but
yeah, you'd hope so.
Until that time, we're going to be stuck. Yeah, I had something like that the other day. Actually, with my Tanny card, I picked up a Tanny, right?
Yep.
And I sent the guy an offer on Discord, and I was like, "All right, this is what I'm willing to pay for the card." Like, there weren't that many listed. I think there was 1 or 2, and they were way above what the average was. So I was like, you know what, I'll just look at what the average was. Like, I'll give him a good price and I'll offer that because I wanted a Tanny, right? Because we're coming up to him being back and I want to have a U23 goalkeeper to play over the summer as well. And hopefully he stays fit. So I sent him an offer. He said, nah, I want to keep him. And I was like, okay, cool. And I left it a day or 2. And then it got further down the track and then he got back to me and he's like, oh, do you still want to get the Tanny? I was like, yeah, cool. And then he gave me this long story about how he was going to go on vacation and he needed the money and he's thinking of leaving Sorare. And I'm like, all right, cool. You've given me the story, but yeah, I'll pick up the Tanny. And then, so I sold him the Tanny. And then like literally 20 minutes later, I see that he's picked up another Tanny from the current season for lower than the price. So he's basically done me. He's gone and negotiated with the other guy and been like, I'll pick up your Tanny. But he didn't need to give me the story of like, I want to go on vacation. I need the money. I'm like, why just say, yeah, I want to pick up the Tanny. I don't need to hear your random lie like about you going on vacation and leaving Sorare. You're obviously not leaving. So I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. It was like, you've well played, sir, but I didn't need to have the spiel.
Yeah, I stuff like that, man. It just makes you laugh, doesn't it? You're talking about picking up Tanny, of course, because we're going to have the Convergence game week 248 onwards. We're going to have all the leagues in action. We're going to have a Royal Rumble and getting stuck in. When you're building your squad, obviously you're preparing for that. And you mentioned already you're going to be mainly attacking U23. As the year, as like March and April rolls on, are you prepared to go like cross region? Are you going to be taking on? I've seen you've got some Antlers guys as well, like Sekigawa and whatever. Are you and some MLS? Are you trying to move away to just do summer leagues only? Or are you going to try and have a little hybrid in this little interim period when the European season and these other seasons all kind of intertwine? Or how are you going to try and approach it?
So it's going to be fun because I'm going to have obviously them all playing at the same time. So I'll be able to pick on form and matchup, hopefully. Like, cool. I feel like I'll only really pick the guys that I know to start off with and then see how the new seasons start off, because especially with the MLS and the J League, they don't really go off the previous season. Like, obviously you'll have your front runners, and especially in the J League, but MLS is going to be quite open. Like, you will have your teams that are favorites and whatnot, but there'll be people that come out of nowhere. I'm assuming like there'll be people who are the wooden spooners will be higher up the the table, hopefully. But yeah, I feel like what I've done is I've looked into the Asian and MLS preemptively as well, because I know summer's coming up. So I've picked up a Julian Araujo and Sekagawa, so I have defensive options. I have Kaneko and someone else, Almendra.
Yep.
And I'll probably look to pick up another option in the midfield at some point. And then I've got Algashiwa, and I'm looking up another option for striker as well. And I've got Tani, and I'm looking at another U23 goalkeeper too. So I will be prepared for that already. But then I still have like my Austrian players, still have another couple of options. Like I have the Cunha, which is going to be fun. Hopefully he starts this weekend. I'm hoping to field him in the lineup. So yeah, I feel like I've definitely built it with that in mind. Like I've definitely rebuilt the U23 gallery with the summer in mind as well, but not the sole focus, because I know like obviously those players are gonna come back. Yeah, so
Yeah, fair enough. So, see, when you're kind of looking into this period, and again, I'm just more interested in this because you are so new to the platform, and in terms of you've only been here 3 months, you've never experienced this kind of part of the season
no.
and that kind of thing before. When you're putting these cards together, and obviously, you're doing, in my opinion, a very good job of covering the bases. A little American footprint, South American, and then the Asian kind of lineup sprinkled in with some of your European guys. Do you go into this period having a target of, I want to capture X amount of rewards or ETH thresholds or anything like that? Do you set any kind of physical targets?
Well, like you say, I'm pretty new to it, so I don't really go in with any expectations. So I'm just going to take it as it comes, see how I'm placing each week. It kind of is what happened with Limited. I just kind of figured out, I can place here and here relative to this lineup, whatever. So I feel like honestly, I feel like I'm starting again because I'm in the rare divisions. I have no experience of how to place and where my lineups are best placed in the rare divisions. I am going to be entering the weekly challenge this week for the first time ever because I have a lineup, and I kind of lucked into it because I already had 3 Austrian players in mind. So I will be entering a lineup into that, which is going to be interesting because there's not many people in it, I don't think.
Yeah, I definitely think there's room to exploit those special weeklies for galleries at your kind of level, because like I didn't even know what the special weekly was this game week.
Neither I didn't know until someone told me. I was like, I have 3 Austrians for the first time, so I'll enter that. But yeah, U23 is going to be the focus. I don't have any expectations of going in with all right, I'm going to target this many rewards. I'll take it as it comes. I'll throw my other priorities into All-Star and maybe hit E thresholds. I've said in my videos that I don't want to play res just to hit E thresholds, and obviously I don't, because I'm trying to build competitive lineups in U23. Yep. And I did move up to res with wanting to compete in All-Star because there were simply that many rewards. But the prize probability is just as good in U23. Unfortunately, I saw that they didn't increase the number of rewards for the U23 for this upcoming game week, even though we have a huge number of cards that are now eligible, like Argentina and Austria. They haven't increased that, and I know people have their grumbles with the rewards. I personally don't pay too much attention to it, and I understand that people have been frustrated with the high divisions, but I've been stuck in limited, so I haven't been paying too much attention to the rewards drama, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of the same. Like, for me, like with that kind of thing, I'll kind of come back before I digress. Sorry. The reason I asked you that question is when you mentioned earlier on, like through limited, you had about a 50% hit rate. Like, I wasn't sure if you maybe, and obviously you wouldn't expect to, I don't know, maybe you would or wouldn't, but to continue that or even improve on that from making this transition from limited to rare, because of course you would expect the difficulty to increase, But I was just wondering more than anything if you had like an expectation in line with that, like, I'd maybe expect that to. Obviously you don't, but that was just kind of the seed of the thought that I had, was like...
Yeah, I'm only focusing on 2 real lineups and 3 if I can stretch myself, because you can see my gallery's it's going to be 17, 18 players. So on a good week, I'll have 3 lineups, maybe, but probably not. So yeah, I'll do what I did in Limited. And in Limited, I was only playing 3 lineups and I had 50 cards. So it's going to be the same here, but I'm going to focus on 2. So I have no expectations, and really I don't expect to hit rewards that regularly at all. So my win percentage is going to plummet, but that's to be expected. I don't really
Of
care
course.
about the win percentage.
Nah, fair enough. It was just something that popped into my head.
No, it's a good question, because I think it's something for people who also want to who want to transition, or maybe thinking about transitioning, to realize that, hey, it's not going to be the same as limited, because they give so many cards away there, because there's obviously so many
buckets of them.
Yeah, there's so many cards to win.
Totally. When it comes to the rewards and all that kind of stuff, and again, it kind of ties into what you were saying earlier on, and what we're both talking about in terms of like the fun and all the rest of it. Like my best, like for me, like in most things that I kind of endeavor towards, like I'm always a big fan of not focusing on like the result, but more focusing on what you need to do to get there. And a big part of, again, what we've been kind of speaking about is like winning an SO5 in any level. A big part of that is, you know, enjoying the players, knowing them, following them, watching the game. I know he's got a good fixture this weekend, so I'm going to back him. And by doing those things, as a result, other things tend to be the consequences: finishing higher than lower in the leaderboard, getting a guy, when I remember when I had Harry, or we were on the drunk cast with Harry, and we were talking about the Vinicius Souza card. He's like, I just watched him and I looked at him and I was like, how, and it's these fun elements. You don't focus on, I need today. I need to find a guy that's underpriced in the market today that I can sell tomorrow, because when you focus on that, you'll find something and you'll make it work. You'll tell yourself, yes, this is underpriced, and then you end up talking yourself into something. Whereas you take a step back and you kind of focus on the things that are a bit more pleasant, if you like this guy is a good player. I can see the scores haven't materialized yet for reasons A, B, and C. Then that's for me. And again, when it comes to winning rewards and stuff, I'm always thinking I want to have like as many teams that I'm going to be buzzing about to get screenshots on Twitter, or to go into my group chats and go, look at my D4, look at my D3. And if that's the kind of teams I'm building, then obviously they're going to be competitive, or they should be, because I'm not rolling out in at game weeks playing Cherky every week and Camavinga, even though they're those kind of cards that you would think are nice looking, when you focus on that, as I said, normally good things are a consequence.
I was going to ask you, at what point did you feel like your gallery was settled? Because your gallery seems like it's very settled. And for someone like me who's relatively new, transitioning, I'm getting to the point now where I feel like it's about to be settled, but I have gone out and been flipping cards that I already picked up like a week ago, because I've realized, I want this other card to help me progress to that point. So how long did it take you to feel like you were settled?
When I got into rares, when I got over like 30 cards, is kind of when I thought, like, do you know what? And at the time, of course, there was much less clubs licensed, etc. So my settle point kind of moves all the time. So like when I first started, I got to about 20, 30 cards. I was like, do you know what? There's nobody else in this game I want. I'm kind of happy with where I'm at. And then a new license comes out and it's like, oh, brilliant, Bayern Munich's here. I would love to get a Goretzka. Still not got one. I did have one. It's a long story. I won't bore anyone with because it's brutal. And then like AC Milan comes out. Oh, I'd love a Tio. I'd love a Hernandez. I'd love a Tonali. I'd love a Leao. Brilliant. I'll try and get one or two of them. Inter Milan comes out. Oh, I'd love an Hakimi. Then this team comes out. Oh, I'd love one of them. So it's kind of one of those ones where I always try and think, and again, because I've been on that journey of watching clubs on board and leagues on board as we kind of go, my perspective I always try and have on any card is, would I buy this guy day one if every card was available, even the ones that we still don't have? If everything was available, if it's a desire purchase more than anything, because there is, like you've mentioned before, you do need some SO5 machines, but you do need some guys that you like, And with those ones, I'm thinking, am I buying this guy because he's the best guy available, or is he, I would have bought that guy anyway? And if it's, I'd have bought that guy anyway, I don't think twice about it. That those examples would be like an Oblak and a Hakimi, some of the kind of bigger and better names that I've had over the time, then those are the ones that I'll just go for. And then when I've got those guys, like I get that settled feeling quite quickly, because I look at my club and then I look on the market and I think there's nobody there that, and again, this changes all the time, but I'll maybe have a glance around and I'm like, there's nobody here that I would call a day one purchase, or somebody that I feel I need. I know something, I've seen something by watching that match or whatever, that guy's going to pop this year or whatever. If I don't have those feelings, then I just kind of revert to it. And again, again, excuse my language, one of a very good friend of mine that's no longer with us, God rest his soul, used to always say, and this sticks with me forever, I mentioned it before, you can only piss with the cock you've got. So I guess to one of those points where you only have so much money, you're only going to have so many cards. It comes a point where you have to, this is what I've got, like I've got these 30 cards, I'm going to do my best. And then if one day I can trade one or two of them and get a better one, I'd love a Haaland or, whatever it might be you're thinking about.
Yeah.
Then you've got to, if that then becomes my point where I've got 20, 30 cards and then like the Bundesliga comes on and the only new card in the Bundesliga I really want is, and I'm just using this for an example, but Haaland, then I'm not going to go out and buy Kramaric and I'm not going to go out and buy all these other guys that are good and good SO5 guys. If I know that's the one I really want, I'll suffer in silence and just kind of wait and wait and wait. And it's like, right now I can go get them kind of idea. But that's not for everyone, of course.
So what you're explaining is what I found in Limited. So cool. When I first came in, I picked up a Wirtz, I picked up a Vinny Jr., I picked up a Saliba. Like I knew that these guys were good and I knew that I liked them. So I did have that for a while, but now that I've moved up to Rare, I obviously can't pick up those guys because they're not in my budget. So I can't, I'm not in the same position where I'm like, I want that person because I know that I love them. Like I would love to have a Florian Wirtz rare card, but it's just not viable because I need to have a bit of diversity in utility. But what I found is I've gone down a tier, and what I've done is I've found cards that I like based on stats because I'm something that you put me onto Y-Scout, and I've gone through the underlying data and I've looked at how it correlates to their SO5 scores, how it works, hopefully how it works with the scoring matrix and how those stats correlate. And I've picked up cards that I think are still good performers that have that data underneath that kind of turns me on, if you know what I mean. Like it's not they're not the players that I would probably watch week in, week out. Like I will tell you that I've never watched Davikas play, but I've looked at his stats. I don't watch Utrecht, and I have no way of watching Utrecht here in Australia, but I looked at the data and been like, you know what, he's still a good option to have as a forward. For example, if Cunha's not playing, like obviously I'll probably play Cunha before Davikas because Cunha is someone I can watch and someone I really like and someone who've actually seen play a lot.
Yep.
But yeah, I hope that makes sense because in Limited, I've obviously gone from I did have that core of 30, 40 cards that you're talking about in Limited, but now I'm in Rares and I've had to whittle it down to 15, 16. I've had to kind of narrow that focus a bit.
Probably the unfortunate part of all of this is by you going from Limited to Rare. Like, so you've had that with Limited. I've got that with my Rares at different points, right? But then when I move up and I'm buying Super Rares, that clutch of 30 Rares still plays a part, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. So then when I'm moving up and buying a tier down, so I'm getting like a Super Rare, Jordan Larson, or a Super Rare Kieran Trippier, a Super Rare Ivan Illich, or, these are guys that are tier 2 cards, essentially, Mm-hmm. I still like them. Same, you with your Davikas. But I think what we're missing is like, if you could take your rare Davikas with your limited Wirtz, that would have been probably the same progression I've had, but just that kind of run of the ladder down. But unfortunately, there's no cross division at the moment where you can do yellow and red.
Yeah, and that probably would have been the natural progression. But I feel like now that I've moved up to rares, and if that limited pro does come out, it's a lot easier to transition back down. So it's a lot harder to transition up, if you know what I mean. Because if you need to have the budget. Like I made some calculations on like if I didn't have 6, almost 7 ETH, if I was still coming in with 3 ETH now, there's no way I'd be looking at rares. I'd be going back to limiteds. So,
of course. But again, that like I said at the tip off of this, that the way you've moved it around, because I was when I was watching it, and again I had those super rare kind of parallels in my mind, because when I'm buying super rares, I'm thinking kind of like if I had my original budget, like way back when, like you're talking about, and I was to buy rares, obviously I know I wouldn't be able to get a Wirtz and a Depay and this one and that one, and then those caliber of guys that I know I'd be able to afford, I kind of get them as super rares, and it's kind of similar to what you've done with rares, of course, And then, like, in that situation, like, the main thing, like, you really need to go your way to help you really, like, get ahead of what your natural level should be based on your wallet is a few of these guys to take off. You know, like, Tanny's a great card, of course. We all know why. But there's other guys, I'm looking at my super rares now that I've had kind of pay off that were unexpected, or I say unexpected, you'll know what I mean when I tell you, but like the Thomas Hassel, like the under 23 goalkeeper, I didn't expect him to be a number one last year. I knew he was going to play for like 3 games when I bought him, and I only bought him for that window to then like buy me time. So it's like, oh, if I can use him for 3-4 weeks, I win a reward or two, then I can put him on ice and forget about him. And then whenever he comes good, he comes good. I've got no pressure on it time-wise. I wasn't expecting the number one keeper situation there to change so quickly as it did. But then when that happens with like a rare, it kind of happened to you with your limited. You know, Vinicius Souza goes from 0.1 to 0.5. You know, if you have that with like your Vinicius Souza or your Cunha or something like that, those elevations that you make by buying the tier 2 card that you're in love with, that you know that you can follow, that can be the elevator. That can be the thing that kind of helps you move up. And then you go, do you know what? I sell my Thomas Hassel super rare, and then I can go and buy like 3 cards, or I can pocket the money and take some profit, you know, whatever you're into.
And that's also what I realized when I moved up on it in the last week or two, because I was like, I've got Sven Botman here for 0.85, but what if I could buy 3 for 0.3 with the potential that they explode in the future, or they're going to perform maybe not quite as well, but close to? Why wouldn't I do that and have that diversity? So that's what I did. I sold him on. I didn't lose any money on him, which was good. And then I picked up some alternative options.
Yeah, that's definitely a good. I've done the same kind of thing. Like, is obviously you've had a break-even transaction there, but again, like what you're talking about is exactly what I'll try and do with those kind of situations. And again, I made a video about it. I won't harp on about it, but I've done the same thing with like Van Dijk last year. Like I bought Van Dijk for half a coin, sold him for, I think it was 1 3/4, and then with like the original half an ETH that I used to buy him, I bought Guardiola and Angelino, and then pocketed the rest of the money. And then Guardiola's over an ETH now. Angelino, it's not really done anything. But having rather one big guy have like a couple of guys, if one of them can match him at some point, jackpot. And if one of them falls off the face of the earth, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it's definitely
That's exactly what I've done. And it's better when you go towards U23 as well, because they have the potential to explode, because it's such a limited pool of players. Like a Gvardiol is one of the best U23 defenders at the moment. Will continue to be, I'm assuming, for how old is he now? 19, 20?
19, 20, yeah.
Yeah, you've got another 3 or 4 years. Like,
fingers crossed.
Sweet.
I've been jinxing a lot of players recently. I hope we've not just done it again.
No, I've gone through a whole U23 scouting, and Guardiola's right at the top. Him and Schlotterbeck are the two really good ones.
Something else.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something else I came across looking at stats that I really like. I call him Lionheart, but I think it's Leonhardt. He's the same team as Schlotterbeck. He's his partner.
Freiburg. Yeah.
I like calling him Lionheart. I don't think he's U23.
Yeah, that's probably why I haven't paid attention.
Yeah, he's at Freiburg. He's 25. The thing I really like about this guy, right, and again, this might be something for the audience, maybe more than yourself, but it's pretty nominally priced, about a quarter of a coin, give or take, on auction, maybe a bit cheaper. Former like Real Madrid academy, you know, so he was like a little young German kid that moved into Spain, didn't work out, he's back in Germany. That kind of little thing, I love seeing those little details with players, because like, you know, the big clubs only swoop up the best youngsters, you know, and not making it there is no crying shame at all. The Freiburg shirt is pretty sick as well. I might actually be thinking about it as I look at it a bit closer. It's like tiger stripes and that. And I'm calling him Lionheart. I might actually get one of these. But Schlotterbeck's a baddie. I really like this Lionheart guy as well. He's not U23, I suppose. But
and the Adeyemi moved to Dortmund too. I've heard that Schlotterbeck and Adeyemi could be going to.
Oh, imagine Dortmund, they get Schlotterbeck. Obviously, they signed Sula.
Yeah, Sula, Schlotterbeck. And I'm assuming Haaland's gone and Adeyemi's the replacement of sorts. Like, he's going to pitch in with that output, but no one can replace Haaland, obviously, but Adeyemi is going to be the guy. And yeah, Schlotterbeck and Sula would be a hell of a centre-back partnership, because they've been awful this year with their defence.
I've watched Dortmund like maybe 3 times or so, and it's mainly to watch who they're playing against rather than Dortmund. I've not got any Dortmund cards worth mentioning at this point. And And we did the thing with Harry at the weekend, and like the defense is comical. Was that Zagadou? He was mainly the culprit.
Yeah.
So
because
the
Akanji's
better,
not bad. He's just not got no partners. So yeah.
yeah. Well, he's done his best work at Dortmund when they've had like Hummels next to him or somebody like that, you know, who's going to carry a bit
Almost
of
has
the
been off
responsibility.
form.
He's ancient now as well.
Yeah, he's just too old at this point.
But yeah, no, I make you quite right on the Adeyemi. That'd be a great move for him. And I think as well, like for me, like when I'm looking over the next like 2 or 3 months, like I'm kind of similar to yourself in what you're saying there. Like I don't really set any concrete expectations on, oh, I expect to win 3 cards out this month for 2 tier, you know, anything like that. I'm always, and again, my big banker pal hates me for this. You know, he's always talking about, so what are you going to do over the next 3 months? What's your objective? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just going to try my best. Like, I'm just going to try my best, have as much fun as I can, and go forward. That's the name of the game for me.
And you also know you're going to make mistakes with your lineups too. You're never going to pick the 5 best scorers every game week. So you just got to pray and hope that you've made the right decision, or you've covered your bases.
Big time. And and it's also a bit of a reason why, like, you need to pay attention to ETH when you're on Sorare, like in terms of the price movements and what's going on. Of course, it's unavoidable, but I'll do my best to make as many trades, moves, cash out opportunities, cash in opportunities, whatever, as independently from ETH movement as possible. Because like for the last, like my kids are about to turn 6 and 4. So probably for the last like 7 years, one of my 2 primary objectives in life is to get paid working in football somehow. And number 2, no stress in my life at all. They're my 2 primary objectives. So like
pretty good objectives.
Yeah, well, ETH crashing and ETH booming. Even ETH booming, I've seen this before. Like I can remember like in like this time last year, right? This time last year, I can't remember, right? Say my gallery was worth like 20 ETH or something, I forget what it was. And ETH was about 700 to £1,000 sterling. We went from there to like the end April, May, ETH going up to like $2,000, and then obviously through the back end of the summer, this is all in sterling, so sorry for whatever currency you guys at home listening. Obviously the back end of the year there, we're pushing about £3,500 a coin. And see, when it was moving up, that was stressing me out just as much, or probably more than when it goes back. Because I'm thinking, this is changing so much of the dynamics that go around everything. And you've got to try and keep up with it. And it's like, what's this card worth? I'm trying to buy this card. Am I getting done? Is this a good deal now? Like, you know? And I actually find ETH going up way more stressful than it going down. When it goes down, I'm kind of like, okay, this has happened before. I know. I know what happens now. This means that this will happen, and this card's still worth us this amount and whatever. But when it goes into new all-time highs and it's going away, when does it stop? Is it going to be 10 grand tomorrow? You know, all that stuff freaks me out as much. So I always try my best to make all these kind of decisions, what division to target, what card to buy, what card to sell, all that is independently from all these kind of stress buttons as possible. Like, because when you're stressed out, and again, forgive me if any of you know this, I picked this up in a sales conference, so there's a good chance it's maybe a load of shite. But when you are stressed and angry, your IQ like diminishes by like 80% or something like that. You know, it's some sort of significant. I'm sure most things you hear at sales conferences are bullshit, but there's a seed of truth in there, you know, somewhere. And it's one of these things I've always remembered. It is like, you know, if you're stressed or you're angry, and it's one of these things that, see, when you have a fight with somebody and it's a really heated, you know, maybe a loved one or a friend or something, and then you walk away from it and you'll be like, why did I say that? That was just so stupid. Or it's one of these things in the heat of the moment. You think you're doing the right thing and you think it's a smart move. And it's not until you calm down. And again, I just use this in my head because it's something I've been told in the past. I just think, oh, maybe that's when your IQ kind of resets back up and you can think clearly and you think, wow, I handled that so terribly. Why did I approach that like this? Why didn't I do that? You know, that kind of thing, which is a big reason why I try my best to avoid like stress and all the rest of it. But
it's good advice. You don't make good decisions when you're stressed and angry. Definitely not.
Big time. And those decisions stay with you. You know, if you sell a card underpriced or you buy a card for too much, there's no going back. It's done. You know, you need to live with it.
Yeah, it's not ideal, is it? So go for a walk before you make a big purchase.
Yeah, take some fresh air, you know. And, you know, it's funny because I don't think I'd call it stress, but when I bought that unique the other day, I wasn't far off it because I looked at it, I got my unique for like just over a coin, which I think is a great price for a unique. But I seen it, it's only been on the market for like an hour or something, and I was like, oh, I've got headphones on, so I can't do it. But I was up and down, walking around here, and I was like, oh my God, what did I do? should I do this? Should I do that? And I was freaking out. And then it kind of came to the point where I was like, just do it. Just do it. Stop overthinking it, you know. But as you say, you make the worst decisions when you're stressed out.
So what's the plan with the unique? Are you planning to pick up a couple more? You want to move up a division? What do you want to do?
So, like, again, I've been trying to put myself in like your shoes, the new person's shoes forever. So I'm always thinking about like going from limited to rare, that kind of thing. And what keeps coming back to my memory, and my memory's terrible, like it really is, honestly. What keeps coming back to my memory is my opinion of super rares and my opinion of uniques when I started. Like when I started, the platform was like under 1,000 users, you know, and I was like, one of the things that I always put a burden on myself on was like, I know there's going to be more than 10,000 people play this at some point, you know, so I need to get the best stuff I can as quickly as I can. So that was a bit of a time burden I put on myself. So anyway, when it comes to super rares, I've done that as well, but it's like I might not actually really need these cards or really want all of them, but I can get them. There's a tactical advantage to having them. Maybe I do use them, maybe I don't, whatever, yada yada. So for the longest time over the last year, I've been looking at it as quite criminal that I didn't even have a unique at all, even to mention, because Hybe, who's a good friend of the channel, I'm sure you catch the podcast and all that kind of stuff as well. When I was brand new, I think he bought 3 uniques like really quickly. And see, every time he bought one, he got a direct offer within 3 hours for more money than what he paid for it on auction and sold it. But at least he was buying them, you know. And I always had that in my head. I kept thinking to myself, I've never been even close to buying one, you know. And sure, they are a lot of money. They've always been a lot of money relative terms to the platform and the price of ETH, etc. So for me, it's one of these things that I've had at the front of my mind for so long. And I'm a big believer, and again, if you listen to me talk long enough, you maybe think I'm mental, but I'm a big believer in if you think about something for long enough, there's a really good chance it's going to happen, you know, if you really focus on it and you drive towards it. So my initial, the reason I'm kind of flabbering and telling you all that is, so with super rares, I thought if I could ever get to 10 super rares, I would be the happiest man on earth. Like, and I've got like 50 of them now, you know, so I'm now at that point where uniques, I've got my first one and I'm thinking by the end of the next 2 years, if I could get up to a stage where I've got 10 of the things, they might all be tier 2 levels or whatever, but I'd be really happy. And the reason I'd be really happy with that, subsequently why I'd have been really happy with that amount of supers back in the day, is I think Sorare's long-term future is like esports, professional gaming type thing, you know, professional poker meets fantasy football kind of situation. And one of the advantages I want to have for being here now and being here for the last 2 years is, like I said before with the supers, is I want to get my hands on the best stuff I can while I can. You know, that's a very firm objective of mine. So that in like 5 years from now, and it is like, I can't imagine what it'll look like, you know, but there is some sort of like e-sport professional gaming aspect to all this. I've got the weapons, you know. I'm just Jonathan Quinn. I'm just some random guy in Glasgow, but I've got all this stuff. I'm not coming in with, you know, like sponsorships and all the rest of it. I've just hustled and grinded and done it. Yep. So that's kind of the play with the unique, is like not necessarily like, don't get me wrong, I'll be playing it in divisions as soon as I can, and I'll get more as time goes on, I'm sure. But the play is really more like I want to have an arsenal of like, so I've got about 100 limiteds, about 100 rares, about 40, 50 supers, and then the first unique. I think if I could keep my limiteds and my rares around the same quota, plus or minus 10 or 20, supers about the same, maybe plus another 5 or 6, and then another couple of uniques over the time. Like you were talking before, asking me before about your gallery being settled. I feel my gallery is so settled that I can just kind of sit on money and wait for these really big piece opportunities to roll around. Whereas over the last year, when I have been thinking, I should really be getting a unique, I'm also thinking I've got no super rare U23 forward for the summer. I need one. I've also not got a champion keeper for backup. I need the one. And I also need this and I also need that. So when you're trying to fill these spots to get that satisfaction level where you want it to, these nice to haves are just way further away. You know?
Oh yeah, I can relate to that. And also what you were talking about relates to people starting off in limited too. Because I got to the point where I was in limited, so I'm like, I should really be picking up rares. Why am I not picking up rares? People commenting, and I've had lots of people, nice people reach out because of the content I've been putting out and being like, you should really think about rares. And I'm like, yeah, I probably should. I probably should. And then I started to think about it more and more. But now I'm at that position where I'm like, all right, focus on U23 because that's what I really like and enjoy. And it is a good strategy. It's a good strategy in my opinion. But also for people who are starting out, when you think about limiteds, right? still 1 of 1,000. If this thing goes big and it's gonna grow and grow, like you're still owning a 1 of 1,000, which is pretty scarce. And obviously
Yep.
there'll be new cards next season, but I wouldn't fret about having to move up to rares if you don't have the budget. Like limiteds are still good cards to own if you pick up cards that you like.
Big time. To add a bit of context to that, two things. I can remember when the platform was like, let's say 2,000 users, and then they would bring on like the whole MLS, and people would be like, oh my God, like there's so much supply now. There's 100 cards of every card. It's so much. Prices are going to crash. But it's like of 100, and you didn't even get the full 100 listed. You know, they don't even issue them all most of the time. And I buy some other NFTs on an app called VV. It's Victor Echo. I don't overly recommend it. It's, you can't really get money out of the thing, but all the stuff that they do is official IP. So they do like Marvel comics that are NFTs, which are really, it's like a real Marvel comic, you know, but it's an NFT. And they do some other stuff which is cool and wonderful that I've been picking up and buying. I don't spend much money on it, truth be told, but those things, the most, you get one of ones, right? But then the second most scarce one is 1 of 1,000, you know?
There you go. And think about if there were physical sports cards, a 1 of 100. When you see those 1 of 100 sports cards come out in like what are they called? Impeccable or immaculate, whatever those Panini and Topps cards are called. 1 of 100's massive, and like 1 of 1,000's still good. Like if it's a numbered card, it's still good.
Yep, completely. And again, we can get overlook that because we just look at our own user base and think about tomorrow and think about the next month and worry about what's the, you know, oh, limited prices are doing this and oh, ETH's doing that, and you can kind of live in the moment a bit too much sometimes. It can feel all quite seismic and, you know, oh my God, my guy's just been suspended for 2 games. How am I going to sleep tonight? You know. And it's like,
if you're in that position and you're worrying about it, you're probably not in a good spot.
Yeah, but and again, like, I'll probably say this as a little kind of light disclaimer. I think a lot of the time as well, because a lot of the game is ROI focused, or a lot of the players are ROI focused. Oh Jesus, what was I even going to say there? Sorry.
Well, it's not the stock market. I don't think people should be sitting on their computers thinking like I'm trading stocks here, because you're just going to get so stressed about it, and you've got no control over whether ETH goes up or down, or whether your card goes up or down, or who's injured, who's playing, who's on hot form. Like, I don't know how you could play the game like that, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I think you mentioned it earlier when we were talking about this, but some people do get their jollies from trading, and I get that. And I
get it too.
I love buying and selling cards too. But if that was all I was doing, like, I wouldn't be playing this anymore. I'd probably just sit on cards and wait for big offers to come in. But
don't get me wrong, I love flipping cards for a profit, but at some point you've got to try and think about what am I doing this for? If you're trying to make money and solely make money, that's cool, but
that's what I was going to say, sorry, before I lost myself. Like, I think because it is so, like, kind of ROI focused and whatever, like, and again, I'm trying to consciously say this more and more on content, but one of the most valuable things you can have as a Sorare player, like yesterday I took a day off, I didn't come in here, didn't barely look at my phone until like after the kids' bedtime. Time away from the game can give you such, you know, even a day or something like that. You just don't log in. The game week's settled, it's a midweek, you don't need to buy any cards, you're not in negotiations with anyone. You might not be totally settled, like we've touched on a few times, but you know, you're not going to be buying something in the next couple of days, for example. You're kind of set for the next week or two. Not looking at it, like not going into Discord, not going onto Twitter, not logging in for like a day or something like that. Getting a wee bit of reprieve, get a wee bit of respite can do tons of people the world of good, because sometimes you can just really be in the moment and it's really heavy and it's the make and break of everything. And again, like we've both touched on before, in those situations is when bad decisions tend to happen. You sell something that you really shouldn't, that you later regret. You overpay for something. You do a trade that way favors the other guy rather than you, because you think, oh, I'll just do this trade because of blah, 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 whatever. And sometimes the best thing you can do is step away for a day or two or a week or whatever you want and regroup.
I get that. I've been really into it over the last couple of weeks because I've been doing this rebuild, and I'm just about to come out the other side of it. I think I'm 2 or 3 cards away from being like, all right, I'm done. I'm settled. No more rebuilds. Sit back for a good couple of weeks and chill out a bit.
Yeah. So I'm like that as well. Like in periods before where I've sold cards or buying a lot of cards, like you're at it. It's like you've got an objective, you know, like I need this piece, that piece. If I can't get him, I'll get him or him or him. And you're in the zone. But like you say, there comes a point where it has to be the work's done for now. Let's see what comes. Do I need to amend later on? Do I need to readjust? You know, You take a wee bit of time to kind of let it settle
Because
out.
there aren't games every day. You're gonna have to wait for game weeks to come and go. So
Yeah, totally. Because like, and again, the reason that comes to the front of my mind, I've not seen it, right? Because I've heard it's absolutely terrible. But the new Matrix movie is
I haven't seen it.
when I seen, no, I've not seen it either. But I seen the trailer for it.
Mm-hmm.
Seen the trailer at the very beginning of it. It's like Neo, and he's been like redeveloped or whatever in the Matrix again, and everyone in the Matrix is walking about like we all do in real life, like that in their phone, walking about, you know. So as much as I'm saying like Sorare or whatever, it's just really your phone as much as anything. Like, you know, YouTube, all these. Sometimes it's good, man, just to like be aware how much you're on your phone and how much it's called FaceTime for a reason. You know, how much FaceTime your phone's getting from you, because it does suck the energy out you, man. You need to go get some fresh air. You said it earlier, go for a walk, man. You know, go get some fresh air. Sometimes that could be the best thing you do. It's just really take a step back and chill.
Unfortunately, most of my walks are consumed with so rare content because I just plug it into my ears and listen to podcasts or listen to your videos or
Yeah.
someone else's videos.
But then even when you do that, and you know, I would even say take a break from content as well, to be honest, right? But even when you do that, you're taking yourself out your own situation and you're listening to other people, what's going on. And then sometimes that can spur a wee idea, it goes off in your head and you think, oh, that could work for me, or I could do that, but a bit different. So that's not terrible, but I would also say like, yeah, definitely have a day where you don't plug anything on if you can.
I've actually found my way out is creating the content as well, because that forces you to focus on something else.
Big time.
And obviously, I have a full-time job, so I have work to do outside of this. But creating content is a good way of kind of getting it out and not focusing on it too much, like from an outsider's perspective of like, how am I going to tell this story or whatever?
Yep. One thing I love about making content around this that I've found is it makes you moderately accountable to the audience, if you like. You know, like if I'm going on a video and I'm talking about, oh, I'm going to try and pick up this card and I'm aiming for this division and whatever, you know, when you finish that video and you pop it up, you walk away from it, everyone who sees that is going to expect follow through. Everyone who sees that is going to expect like you to, you know, do as you say kind of thing, because that's what's going on the video, of course. Me as a person, if I didn't put that level of accountability out, I would make way worse decisions. If I didn't make content, I would definitely not be as good at the game as I perceived to be, if that makes sense, because I would be by myself. I'd overthink shit. I'd be accountable to no one, you know, and, you know, it's not like accountable, like people will give you in trouble if you don't do something, but it's like if I say, oh, I'm holding that guy forever, then if I sell him in 2 days, people are going to be like, hold you fucking swine. you know. You know,
I've actually done that, but then I've sold my cards. So I've talked about having cards as mainstays or having cards that I don't expect to sell, and then the next week they're gone. So I get that, but I feel like I haven't stayed accountable to my own audience, but with good reason. It wasn't just like I was flippantly saying I'm going to keep them forever. I did have that intention in mind, but then I had to rethink in my strategy. And even from my last video, right? I've moved on from cards that I talked about in my last video. So it's just the way it is, I think.
Yeah. Well, I said for a long time I would never sell my Hakimi unless big money came in, and I kind of made the decision that I kind of had to sell him to make other things happen, you know. So things change, of course. But I was using a really obvious, you know, you know what I'm saying, you know.
No, I definitely.
But I find like, yeah, if I say stuff like that in a video, or I know I'm going to be making a spreadsheet video in a month's time, analysing my activity or whatever, I'll be thinking, like, don't do anything fucking stupid now. You know, because it'll come up and it'll show, sort of thing.
Well, the accountability comes from the value as well. Something that I've kept consistent is the value of the gallery, and talked about strategy and how that's what's been the consistent, thorough, like, through line of like, hey, this is me as just documenting my experience. I'm not an expert. I'm someone who's just started out, which helps because then you can make mistakes and people won't blame you. But
yeah, that's what I love about it, because, like I say, I'm trying to keep in that headspace. That's why I really enjoy.
And we're all going to make mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes on SoRare, especially because it's like you were all learning still. I'm sure you're still learning about it too, and you've been here from almost the very beginning. So
I need to remind myself almost on a fortnightly basis what a triple is. I forget all the time, and I'm like, what is it I'm looking for again? And I have to go and Google it and find the thing again. And I'm like, oh yeah, it's tackles and this and that. And
yeah, what is it? I don't know. I don't know.
It's net tackles 1, or it's net net duels one, net duels,
Mm.
tackles, and I can't remember the third one. I need to Google it, but I forget all the time. And then when I'm watching a game, I'll be like, so I do the same thing. I forget all that stuff all the time, and like I'm always learning stuff. Is kind of the main point there as well. No one's ever finished because the game does change. You learn new things about players, and do you know what? A defender that's playing in midfield could actually offer you a bit of this, and a striker card that's actually doing that could give you a wee bit of this, and there's always new details and kind of tactics kind of coming out.
I would also recommend that people study scores of other players as well on like just go through the games. That's why I love the Sorare data app, because you can go through each game and have a look at the players and what they've scored and go into their stats and go, all right, they've scored for this and this and this reason, and learn that over time, because you can't just go in straight away and go, all right, these are my, as a new player, you can't go in, all right, these are my cards and I know they're going to perform well, because you've got absolutely no idea. You have to know the ins and outs of the scoring matrix and understand why players are getting certain scores. Like, for example, someone like Sven Botman can lose 2-0 and score a 99 because he's got an insane all-around game. And no other fantasy sports game is going to give you that, because, it's just too in-depth. Like, the stats
If
are
you
just
lose 2-0 in any hard game, you're crucified.
Exactly. You know? No clean sheet. You've conceded 2 goals. Like, why would you get a almost perfect score?
That's because the guy cleared all the balls and he, would have been 5-0 without him. That's what that tells you.
Exactly. And then you've got defensive midfielders who score great, and then you've got attacking midfielders who score great for different reasons. So it's like learning the ins and outs. And you've got creative forwards who get more key passes or attempted assists, and then you've got decisive forwards like a Haaland who does nothing but score goals. Like, there's so many different ins and outs that you have to learn over weeks and weeks and months and months and months of studying the game. Like, I had a player who scored a triple in midweek, actually, and I had no idea why. So I was like, oh, okay. At least I understand some of it. Thanks for explaining that, by the way.
No, that's all right. It's quite easy to find if you jump on Google, but I need to constantly remind myself when I'm like tracking a guy like Trippier, I mean, he's playing last night or whatever. But it's like net duels. So if they're in like 5 duels, they win 3 out of 2. That's 1. If they win like 4 out of 6, that'd be 3. They're 3 ahead of their opponent, that kind of thing. And then it's tackles, and I forget what the third one is.
That's why it's good to study underlying stats too, because you're like, all right, this is going to translate well to SO5 because this guy has this many interceptions per 90 or whatever.
Success percentages come into it and that kind of thing big time. Yeah, underlying numbers are like underlying numbers are funny. That's probably a chat we could have all by in itself. But when you're looking at, and again, it's all about data as well. Like, I know you're on the Y Scout at the moment. One thing I want to say before I run into that real quickly is, like, accountability is very valuable. And if you don't have a channel, you don't make content yourself, right? There's a great way to make yourself accountable, and it's pad and paper. And it's just writing down what your thoughts are and what you think, oh, by the end of this month, I should be doing this, or I have to sell that guy to make some profit by the end of the month because I've got a birthday coming up, or I'm saving up for something, or I want to, whatever your objectives are, just write them down. You don't need to necessarily go bragging about them online or tell your other half or go tell your family or whatever, but you do need to have some sort of accountability to yourself. I think is very valuable, because then when you look back at a month or a week later, you had a little to-do list of 3 objectives that you wanted. If you only got one of them, then it feels good, obviously, going, oh yeah, well, I achieved that. And then the other 2, why didn't I? Oh, well, I kind of just threw that at the bin. I kind of discarded that, or I actually forgot all about that. And, or, these little accountability things can make big differences.
I highly recommend, like, documenting the journey. Doesn't have to be you making YouTube videos or putting it on Twitter, but documenting it even just for yourself, however you want to do it, is a really good way of doing it. Yeah, I completely agree.
I just had it in the back of my head, sorry, so I wanted to say that before I forgot it. But but on data, like, the thing I'll say on that is, like, there's data and there's data. I've got on my phone maybe about 6 different apps that kind of all tell you the same thing. But, like, I know when I go on to SofaScore, I'm going to get a better indication on some SO5 related stuff. But I know if I go on to FootMob and WhoScored.com, I'm going to get no indication on SO5, but they will have another insight of sorts that might be useful somehow, So having a wide width and breadth of resources as well, as much as you can, is very valuable.
Oh, I 100% agree. And also Sorare data as well, like having as many different information sources as possible. So, for example, FBref or
Yep.
like you say, who scored, Sofa score, and how it all comes together to form that SO5 score. And
Yep.
that's the best way of doing it, I think, that I've found so far.
Yeah. Because like, see when like the J League came on, I didn't know it, and the Eredivisie, I knew a little bit about the Eredivisie, but when both those divisions came on, I went through all those apps and I was looking for, and I mentioned this recently, I don't know if it's out or not, but I'll keep it brief. I went through all those apps and I was looking for guys that repeatedly came into top 20s, not top 5s and top 10s, but guys that were always in top 20s across like, so maybe a guy was like top 20 for a defender passes to final third, and he was top 20 for clearances or something. Pays maybe top 20 for like 3 okay stats. And it's like, okay, well, that guy's obviously like a handy player. He might not be doing everything amazing, but he's doing enough good things that he just needs maybe the team to keep an our clean sheet. And then that 45 becomes a 56. And, you know, these things can then come round again.
That's why I love going on Y Scout and going deep in on expected goals and expected assists, and then successful defensive actions and successful attacking actions. And I've gone through all the different filters to find the perfect player for me or whatever. So, for example, like progressive passing centre backs, because I know they're going to put through really successful long balls, or they've got really good key passing stats as well as good defensive stats. That's something brilliant. That's really well translated to SO5. So that's been fun.
For sure. Magic. Well, SoJiwa, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think I've kind of ran out of steam, but it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Honestly, like I said to yourself, I was just hoping to get you on just to bend your ear, just see what you're up to and what you're thinking going forward. Because I've been very impressed with watching you from afar, of course, with your activity. So, honestly, mate, where you are now, it's well past your bedtime. So, thank you very much for taking the time to come and speak to me. I really appreciate it, mate.
That's all good. It's been really great to talk to you, and like I said, I've been watching your content since before I started making my content, well before. So, yeah, thanks for getting me into the game. Thanks for all your help as well. Like, it's been really great, and I'm glad that you enjoy the content. I'm glad other people have resonated with it too on Twitter and YouTube and wherever else. So yeah, it's been really great to talk to you. Thanks, Quinny.
Oh, thank you very much. And all the links, again, if you've not found them, then it's criminal. But all the links to SoJiwa's YouTubes and Twitters and whatever will be in the description of this video. Make sure you do check them out. As always, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share and retweet and all that good stuff. About to pop on screen now some other stuff I've made that YouTube thinks you might like. Stay out of trouble, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.